was leaving home for the first time. It was the day before I was gonna move up here. And my father, I could tell, was kind of emotional. Now, he's not a very emotional man, so I was like kind of like paying attention to things he said and what he's doing, because it's out of the usual. So he was sitting on the couch with me, and he looked at me, and he said, Kate, he just had this earnest gaze and this big smile. He said, Kate, I can't wait for you to come home from college and tell me about all your failures. And I looked at him and I was like, what? Because my plan for college was not to go fail, it was indeed to go succeed. So I was like, what kind of like rude joke is this? I said, what do you mean? He said, Kate, you don't get it. Failure is so much more instrumental to your process of becoming than success is. You learn so much more from failure. I hope you go to college, and I hope you fail over and over again. I hope you fail big. I hope you come home and you're proud of it, and we're all going to celebrate it, because you're going to fail all the way to success. It's like, oh, okay, Dad. Left, I was like, that's not what I'm doing. Well, here I am, sophomore in college. Everything my dad said was true. And his view of failure is now my view of failure. Now, I know that failure is difficult to deal with because people like Dr. Friedman, who studied HIV and AIDS his whole life, found that he couldn't find a cure and wrote a poem just about failure as the culmination of his work. So I know that failure is difficult for people to experience, and we don't know what to do with it. So my speech today is to tell you that failure is really important for you, that you're going to learn a lot from it, and you need to do it well. So I'm going to tell you how to fail really well. It's a 4-step process. Number 1, when you're going to fail, you need to only take feedback from the right people. So it's really popular in our culture to say things like, oh, I don't care what anybody thinks, nobody can tell me anything, I don't care. That's not true, number 1. And number 2, there's certain people you should care. You don't have to care what everybody thinks, just certain people. Well, how do you decide who you're going to care gives you feedback? So Trish Travis is a researcher in the University of Florida, and she says that Brené Brown, who's a social work researcher, she calls her the vulnerability guru. I love Brené Brown. I read all her work, I love it, she's awesome. And so she uses this metaphor all the time of an arena, that we are gladiators in an arena fighting. This is our life, and the people that are just watching in our lives are the people sitting in the arena. And she says, if you're not in the arena getting your ass kicked, I don't want your feedback. And that's how we decide. If you're not in the arena, you don't get to tell me. So all of you today, you guys are in the arena also getting your asses kicked with these speeches. But my roommate, she heard this before I came, she doesn't get to give me feedback. So it matters who you get feedback from. Number 2, you need to show up. So sometimes in life you're gonna realize like, oh crap, I'm not prepared, I don't know what to do, I should just flee and like run away. No, just show up and fail. It's really good, you learn a lot. Number 3, your ego is really expensive. You can't afford to have one. You need to throw it away. Egos make you do things that you don't need to do, because you need to take big risks so that you have great big failures to learn from. So President Truman said, it's amazing how much you can do when you don't care who gets the credit. You need to throw away your ego. You're not trying to get any credit for anything. Just go do things. I also know that leadership expert Esteban Quiros says that the key to leading is to not blame others, and whenever you don't have an ego, you're not going to blame others, and big failures make great leaders. The 4th thing that makes you a good failure is that you need to believe it. I know that kind of sounds like Peter Pan, like you need to believe, but really, your language is indicative of what you believe. So if you find yourself saying things like, well, if I fail, like, no, you don't understand failure. It's coming for all of us. It's going to happen. It already has happened. You need to say things like, when I fail. It's happening. So believe that you're going to fail. These are the 4 ways to fail really well. So I'll leave you with a story and a quote. About 40 years ago, my grandfather started an investment firm. He was a couple years in, and it was very bad. He was a couple $100,000 in debt, didn't know what to do, couldn't pay his employees. He had one last shot. He was going to meet one potential client at a hotel. He goes to the hotel that day. He doesn't have money for lunch. He's just going to skip lunch. Well, he gets to the hotel, and he sees this sign, and it says, Physician's Luncheon. And through this door, he can see a buffet line. He can't afford lunch, so he walks in, and he gets in line for the buffet. This guy walks up to him and says, hey, I've never seen you before. I come to these luncheons. Where do you practice? He's like, God, what do you do? He said, I'm just going to level with you. I have an investment firm. It's not going well. This is my last shot. This guy that I'm about to meet with, I can't afford lunch. I got in line. So he doesn't know what this guy's gonna say because he's just caught him stealing lunch. And he looks at him and he puts his hands on his shoulders and he looks him in the eyes and he says, at the end of the 9th inning, stand up on the plate and wait for the next ball. Life is not 3 strikes and you're out. This is what good failure looks like. Stay up there, wait for the next ball. So I'll leave you with a quote from a poem. It says, if at first you don't fail, try again.
Mercy.